study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
Several times I would get in the Uber and the driver would offer me a cigarette. And then when I'd say no, they would light one up for themselves anyways and just smoke while driving me. And I've never seen that happen in another country.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams.
Welcome to Remote Roundup, where you'll get a curated list of the latest and greatest from the world of remote work and long-term travel, including insanely helpful tools and resources, need-to-know trends, destinations worth spending time in, and plenty of insights into what it really means to live and work around the world. And we do it all with a dose of humor, or at least we try. I'm Caitlin, associate producer of the Zero to Travel podcast, and a digital nomad for the last year and a half, currently on pause, we'll get more into that later, who loves to help people do life differently. Fun fact for me, so I have this ridiculous goal to one day be on some sort of reality game show, and I have officially applied for Survivor twice already. And I am still waiting to hear back.
Have you? Well, I hope they give you the call one of these days. I want to watch you on Survivor.
Right? I think I would be like a really interesting character, you know, like kind of like the like personality hire. Like I would definitely be a good personality hire for Survivor.
All right, we'll just stick at it. Maybe it'll happen. Okay, and I am Janessa, the Partnerships Manager for Zero to Travel. I'm a slow traveler working remotely who took an adult gap year 7 years ago and never returned to a conventional life. And fun fact, I was recently in Zimbabwe with my mom, and we were walking to a restaurant for dinner, and we got stopped by a car, and they said, "Don't keep walking down the road. There's a herd of buffalo."
What?
So luckily this person had seen it and told us and warned us. And so we had to back up a few hundred meters, and he called a taxi for us, and we were able to drive through this herd of buffalo, because we were kind of like, well, like how many? Are they on the road? Can we walk around them? But no, it was like 20 buffalo, like right in front of the restaurant that we needed to get through with a car. So that could have ended very badly if this stranger hadn't stopped us.
Oh my God, that is wild. I mean, for one, the fact that's amazing that you went with your mom to Zimbabwe. But yeah, I would have asked the same questions. So I'm glad you got a taxi.
Yeah, we were planning to taxi home, but it was still daylight. So we thought it would be safe. And it is a very safe country in terms of the people, but you really do have to look out for the animals.
Good to know.
Anyways, coming your way in this month's remote roundup, how a community-powered moment from the podcast led to a solo trip to Egypt, a simple technique that you can use to help with stress and dysregulation wherever you are in the world, the idea of incorporating a hibernation season, even if you are constantly chasing summer like us, and some of the wildest workarounds for remote work policies that we've seen. And by the way, before we dive in, quick reminder that you can get our free value-packed community-driven newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. All right, today we're going to kick it off with where in the world, and Caitlin, how about you go first and let us know?
Well, I am in the USA. I have been here. I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast yet, but I actually decided to take a bit of a pause from the nomad life. I've talked a lot about how travel has a lot of like stress kind of happening consistently and constantly in the background. And I kind of just needed to settle in and focus on my health and things like that. So right now I am back home. I am in Virginia and I'm with my family, so that's always fun when you go back home after almost 2 years now of constant travel. So it's been kind of a little bit of reverse culture shock, getting used to having constant family around, like roommates, and readjusting to like civilian life, really. But yeah, I plan to be home, I think, probably the most of this year. I still might do some traveling. I know last episode we talked about how I went to Mexico, so I still want to do a little bit of traveling, but I think it might stay a little bit closer to home for the rest of the year.
Yeah, fair enough. It sounds like a good opportunity for a reset, and look forward to hearing updates of what you get up to there and what kind of this next chapter looks like for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes too. But Janessa, I feel like you have been all over the place. I know you were just, like you said, in Zimbabwe. So you were just like doing a bunch of traveling in, I think, a couple different countries down that way. And now you're somewhere totally different. So where are you now?
I was, yes. At our last recording, I was in Cape Town, and then my mom came to visit me, and we traveled around to Victoria Falls. So both the Zimbabwe and Zambia side. We went on a day trip to Botswana for a safari, and we did some safaris in South Africa as well, and went to Eswatini for a day. So a bunch of new places. That was really cool that she was able to come visit me when I was in South Africa. But at the moment, I am currently in Hurghada, Egypt for a scuba diving co-living. So this trip actually came about from a previous listener-inspired and community-powered moment, which was really cool. So in a previous episode back in September of 2025, we had a conversation about international travel, pop-up co-livings, and building community. And I kind of threw a comment out there of like, oh, it's my secret dream to open a scuba diving co-live. And then I was honestly kind of kicking myself because I was like, well, no, I've been down that rabbit hole of what it would take, but I don't want to be in one place. I don't want to be the one organizing this. I just wish it existed. And until at that point, it hadn't yet. So I had a little bit of regret about saying that out loud, out to you all in the world. And then, of course, not only did it make the final edit of the episode, it was pulled as part of our clip for a reel on social media. So even more people saw that moment. And because of that, someone who saw it sent you a message and said, hey, here's a scuba diving co-live, send it to Janessa. And it was perfect. It was exactly what I was looking for. And I don't think I've ever signed up for something so fast. So thank you to the person who shared that with Caitlin to pass that along to me. It never would have come about if I hadn't mentioned this on the podcast. So that's really cool. And shout out to Diving Nomads, who's organizing it. This is their first ever month-long work retreat focused around scuba diving every weekend. And I really hope that it's a success so that hopefully there's more in the future, but I'll keep you posted.
I love that. You're welcome, Janessa. Yeah, when you say scuba diving and Egypt, my brain kind of at first goes, what? That's like a big thing in Egypt. I guess I don't really necessarily like associate those two things together. So that's like really incredible. And two, like it's really funny kind of how things just kind of come together and happen like that. And I think that you told me that you wound up booking it, but I didn't realize that it was already happening. So when you told me the other day, I was so excited to hear that like you were there and like it actually came to fruition, because there's so many times where we say like, man, I'd love to do this or whatever, but it seems too far-fetched, and then, or you don't take the opportunity, and you took the opportunity. So I think that's really amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really cool how it came about. And I think for scuba diving and nomads in Egypt, Dahab is the more popular destination. So anytime I said I was going to Egypt, people assumed I was going there. But here in Hurghada, we're close to a bunch of dive shops. It's on the Red Sea as well, but south of Cairo on the mainland side of Egypt. And yeah, so far the diving seems pretty good here. So that is the focus every weekend. And I get to hang out with 8 people who are working remotely during the week and then scuba diving on the weekends. So it's going great so far. I'm only a few days into it. But yeah, I signed up immediately for this trip. And then I realized I didn't want to go all the way to Egypt and not see the pyramids and the temples, everything above the water, you know. So I added in some solo exploration time at the start of the trip. And we'd actually talked about, Caitlin, your hot take on solo travel in the last episode, which was March of 2026. So if you missed that one, check it out and let us know if you agree or not on this take on solo travel. So although I have identified as a solo traveler for many years, I actually haven't traveled fully alone in a while. I'm often surrounded by community and friends. So this was honestly a bit of an ambitious place to jump back into it. So I'll share what Egypt is like overall and then also my experience traveling here solo. So I started in Cairo and I stayed central downtown Cairo. I told a couple of Egyptian friends that I was doing this and they thought I was crazy. It is quite chaotic and loud. The honking never stops. And the reason I stayed there was because I wanted to have a co-working space to have reliable internet to get my work done. And I was worried that if I booked an Airbnb or a hotel in a more like residential area, that if it didn't go well, that I would be stuck dealing with this on my own. So I found a co-working space, very central, and I found a hostel with a private room that was within a 5-minute walk. And accommodation was very affordable throughout both Luxor and Cairo. I spent between $16 to $24 a night, which is quite good. Overall cost of living was quite low there as well. Most meals I paid between $3 to $5. I got around using Ubers and it was usually under $2 to get most places. That said, this was an interesting experience. Several times I would get in the Uber and the driver would offer me a cigarette. And then when I'd say no, they would light one up for themselves anyways and just smoke while driving me. And I've never seen that happen in another country. So that was interesting. That was not my favorite. I opted to hire private guides on the weekends to take me around to all of the main sites. So I did pay a little bit more for that, but I think it was worth it if you're able to, because I was able to kind of learn more and go deeper and know which areas to prioritize. And it seems to be not a lot of small group, just day tours that you can join. Like in other places, it's either like the massive tour buses or hiring a private guide. So I am glad that I was with someone and I was able to kind of have a more local experience as well. Of these day trips included having lunch with them at a local restaurant that I wouldn't have found otherwise. That was one of my favorite parts of each day. And, you know, both these guides I had were very knowledgeable. They knew every story about the carvings on the walls and they could read every hieroglyph. And so, well, I think you could actually do a lot of these things like DIY style of just Uber to the pyramids or the temples and buy a ticket and walk around and look. And you could, you know, Google it ahead of time or read a book about it or something. You definitely could do that. But I think I appreciated kind of getting that, you know, firsthand storytelling of what I was actually looking at. Because otherwise you do get a little bit of fatigue of like, okay, another pyramid, another temple, another, you know, things on the wall. So I definitely appreciated seeing what I saw and doing it the way I did. But you don't have to spend that if it's not in your budget. It could be a very affordable destination overall. So that said, is it a good nomad destination? We've already talked about Hurghada and Dahab, which are more common for the scuba diving nomads. Cairo, I honestly probably wouldn't go back to work remotely. The internet worked fine, but there's not so much of a community there. And I felt a little kind of uncomfortable in several ways, which I'll get into the whole time. And Luxor, the internet was terrible. Don't even try to work from there. I took 2 days off and I'm glad that I did. Both the Wi-Fi and the data on my eSIMs were not great. And back to the solo travel element. I'm sure if you've seen things about Egypt online, you see that it's not safe to travel solo, especially for women, that there's a lot of like scamming and harassment and people feeling unsafe. So I was kind of mentally prepared for the worst. But that said, I was very surprised. I actually felt very safe the entire time. I don't think I ever actually felt unsafe. Yeah, it surprised me. Even walking home from my co-work space in central Cairo, the city really comes alive at night, partly because of the temperature and like the culture. And so people were out and about on the street. And so I would walk home at like 10 o'clock at night in the dark with my computer to my accommodation. And I felt completely safe. No one bothered me. And all of the people trying to like sell you things, it's just at the tourist sites. So if you're going about your business, no one is trying to force you to buy things or tip them. You just kind of have to be a little bit on guard when you are at these spots. But typically, if you just say no thank you or la shukran, which means no thank you in Arabic, or you just ignore, you don't even have to feel bad about it. You just don't respond to people trying to sell you scarves and trinkets and stuff. And they typically didn't persist or follow or try again. There was none of the kind of unwanted attention or catcalling or anything like that. That said, I did dress more conservatively than I often would. I always had my shoulders and my knees covered, so I wore long flowy pants. Yes, I do stand out in a place like this, but no one, hassled me or gave me any trouble. So don't believe everything what you see online. I do want to say, I'm not trying to minimize anyone's experience. I know some people do feel like they've been harassed or felt unsafe here, but that just personally was not my experience. I was actually shocked at how safe I felt. So I guess also it's important to kind of notice the distinction of feeling unsafe versus uncomfortable. I kind of alluded to that. For example, the constant honking, it was never quiet, the taxi drivers or the Uber drivers smoking with me in the car, having to cross a busy street, Frogger style, where you cross one lane at a time because no one stops. The air quality was really bad, so I had a bit of a cough most of the time in Cairo. So I kind of felt a little bit uneasy and on my guard the whole time. So I felt uncomfortable as a solo female traveling there, for sure. I just didn't feel unsafe. And I think that's a really important distinction that people often lump together.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Are you somebody who lights up when you're planning a trip? You just love geeking out about a destination, finding amazing accommodations, and piecing together an unforgettable itinerary. You're already thinking like a travel advisor, so maybe you should be one. Imagine if your love of planning vacations could actually become a source of income. With Fora, you get the training, tools, and insider access to turn your passion into real earnings as a travel advisor, so you can build a thriving business on your terms, all alongside your job, family responsibilities, or other passions. Every cruise, hotel, or activity you book as a Fora advisor earns you money in the form of a commission or percentage of the booking cost. Getting started can be as easy as booking trips for people you already know. Turn your passion for travel into a fulfilling business with Fora. Become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/0to-travel. All one word. That's Fora, Fora, travel.com/0to-travel. Make sure you tell them we sent you. Foratravel.com/0to-travel. I live in Norway, and one of my favorite Norwegian words is koselig. It means cozy. And it's a word that goes beyond a simple definition, though. Koselig is more of a vibe. It's about comfort, crafting a pleasant atmosphere at home, and taking time to enjoy life with friends and family. And if you want to check out some amazing products to help you live your best koselig life at home and do it in style, check out Cozy Earth to find everything from clothes that actually feel good, like their jogger sets, which are lightweight, breathable, and the kind of soft that only gets better over time, to clogs you'd wear to the farmer's market or the mailbox, bedding, sleepwear, and more. Plus, Cozy Earth offers risk-free purchases, backing everything with a 100-night trial because they're confident you'll feel the difference. And if you don't, returning it is simple. Give yourself the kind of comfort that lives with you all day. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code TRAVEL, all caps, for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Zero to Travel podcast. Cozy Earth. Comfort lives here. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Janessa, that's like a really, really important distinction that maybe I haven't thought about too much either. But I'm glad that you really kind of shared your experience here because one, I've always crossed off Egypt because of kind of the more negative things that I've seen. Or I won't say that I've crossed it off, but I've crossed it off as a solo female traveler and have kind of put the idea in my head of if I was to go, it would be on group tours and things where I am with other people all of the time. You know, like similarly to Egypt, I spent almost a month. I spent 3 weeks in Morocco, and I had that experience of feeling very uncomfortable all the time. Now that it was a mix of uncomfortability and not being safe, to be honest. With my experience, someone tried to steal my bag. My friend was groped and things like that. And yeah, so it's kind of changed how I approach visiting certain countries when I hear about those things. But like you said, it's not everyone's experience, and it also doesn't define the country, right? So
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, smoking cigarettes in the Uber, that's insane.
That was wild.
But I will
to me.
say when I was it was somewhere in Eastern Europe, so Bulgaria, Serbia, Bosnia. It might have been going Bosnia to Bulgaria. I think that's what it was. And the bus driver was smoking cigarettes the entire time. And I was just amazed. Like you're just smoking cigs out the window and stopping to get packs of cigarettes. And it's interesting, you know, the cultural differences.
Yes. I did take a public bus here as well from Luxor to Hurghada. It was supposed to be a 4-hour drive. It was 5, which that's kind of to be expected. Initially, I was going to go with a private driver because I wanted to be here for a certain time for a welcome dinner. In the end, the timing didn't matter. So I decided to go the cheaper route and I saved a lot of money. But yeah, taking the public Go bus was actually very safe. That said, it wasn't an overnight bus or anything. It was only 5 hours. But yeah, the bus driver was also smoking cigarettes and blaring his own music and throwing his coffee cup out the window and kind of just doing whatever he wanted. So that was interesting. But yeah, overall, it's been a positive experience just with that kind of feeling discomfort at the end of the day, getting back to my accommodation and really needing some time to decompress and be with myself and put my earplugs in to sleep. That was probably the highlight of my day when the honking finally stopped. So the only other thing I'll add about traveling solo is that you do pay more because, like I said, I'm paying for this private guide. Small group tours weren't really an option to just join. I kind of thought, maybe I'll just join up with other travelers when I get there. It wasn't really that kind of a place. And so if you have a friend or a partner that you can go with to split that cost with, because you're essentially paying for 2 people anyways for the guides and the hotels, that would be good. But if you just don't want to wait for someone and you can afford it, go solo. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, moving on. So, you know, we've talked a lot about the hidden stress of travel here on Remote Roundup. I feel like it comes up almost every single episode and how kind of just dysregulating it can be as much as we love it. I'm pretty sure that we've also talked a bit about morning routines and trying to create some normalcy and consistency when we're always hopping from place to place and visa to visa. So we've also talked a lot about the ridiculous things that we've packed that take up all of that precious and limited space in our bags. So for our tool time segment, how about a super simple tip that will help with all of this?
Yes, I've been looking forward to what you're going to share for this because this is new to me also.
All right. So this is something that you can add to your morning routine or you can do throughout the day. And it doesn't take up any room in your cargo, which is great. And you already have it with you wherever you go because it is your breath.
Yeah, I don't currently have any breathwork practice in my routine. So please tell me more, Caitlin.
All right. So we're gonna add something into your morning routine. Maybe you can stick with it, or at least maybe just for this morning while we're recording. So This is a super simple breathing technique that I've kind of been experimenting with myself, and it's called coherent breathing. So you might have heard about things like the 4-4-4 or box breathing or the 6-7-8, things like that. I know there's a lot of things like on Instagram right now about regulation and breathing and things to help kind of like calm you down. And those few are specifically kind of for calming down. But coherent breathing, I have found to be a little bit more versatile and good for something to do every day, especially for like a morning routine, because it's really bringing all of your systems kind of together. You're kind of like syncing together everything in your body, and it helps kind of more for that long-term regulation, which we need when we're traveling. We need some long-term regulation and stress reduction. So this is something that you can do like in the moment when you're feeling kind of stressed, but like I said, it's something that's also really good just for like every day in the mornings, or if you need to like transition from, work to relax mode or work to play mode or to whatever mode. This is just a really good technique. So Janessa, and I guess everyone here that's listening, do you want to try it with me really quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Janessa and everyone listening, I'm going to have you just to kind of see what this feels like. Go ahead and place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Janessa, I guess you're holding a mic, so you can't do both. So I'll say put your hand on your belly. Okay, cool. And we're going to just breathe through the nose, but I'll explain it first. So we're going to breathe through the nose, and we're going to breathe like down from our belly. So a lot of us actually breathe all the time, like kind of through our chest. When you're like moving your shoulders a lot, we're breathing through our chest, but we're actually supposed to be breathing more kind of down into the bottom of our lungs, into our diaphragm. So if you just want to kind of imagine breathing into your belly, and when you do that, you're kind of like, you can feel your belly, your stomach kind of moving up and down. So for a count of 4, we're just going to be breathing through our nose, down into our belly, filling your lungs up, breathing like usual. And then you're just exhaling all through the nose. So it's really simple, and you don't take any pauses in between. So you're just consistently breathing. So if we want to do it, Janessa, I'll kind of guide you through it. All right. Are you ready?
Sounds good.
All right. So we're going to start inhaling through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. So super, super simple. And I've been doing this for about 5 minutes every morning. That's it. I like to try to keep my morning routines as short as possible. But so for about 5 minutes is what I've been experimenting with. And I have heard, I don't know the facts, but this comes from someone that I trust, is that doing it for 5 minutes, like kind of the effects of that can last for 5 to 6 hours of the day.
Oh, wow.
So doing it twice a day. And yeah, like I said, it's like a good long-term technique, something you don't have to pack in your bag. So I think it's really great for travelers who are stressed all the time, maybe even stressed and don't even realize it.
Yeah, that really is so simple. So I have no excuse not to try it. So thank you for leading us through that.
You're welcome.
All right. So talking about slowing down with your breath, that's actually a great segue into our next topic. And that is the importance of a wintering season. So I've noticed that skipping winters kind of causes almost like a seasonal jet lag feeling or fatigue, maybe longer term. So as we're recording this, it is spring in the Northern Hemisphere, and people are often making big travel plans for the summer, or they're doing higher energy activities and getting out and socializing more as the weather gets warmer. And you and I are typically both always chasing summer, which is amazing to skip the cold weather because I'm not a fan of winter.
Yeah, it is.
But then the downside is then we also skip that slowing down season. So I'm kind of realizing that maybe it's important to have more of a hibernation season for yourself, even if the weather isn't cold. You could do this somewhere warm so that you can kind of reset with new energy and kind of take that pause in the cycle of your year to kind of go inward and reflect and maybe make those big plans for later in the year. But we're kind of in this cycle of going from one high energy season to the next around the world without really slowing down. And that can definitely cause fatigue long term, even if you're staying in places longer. You know, I was in Cape Town for the winter, which was their summer, and it was hectic. It was busy. It was go, go, go. So many things happening. So this is just something that I've been thinking about lately, and I thought would be worth bringing up and having a little discussion on the podcast.
Yeah, I love when you initially told me about this idea because, like I said, I never thought about it in this way before. Like the importance of this wintering season and giving ourselves that break that winter is actually meant for. Slowing down in winter is kind of hard for everybody, like everyone. Especially since we have all of that new year, new me BS. And it's like, there really is no pause. Like there's still all the stress of like, now I have to change my whole life on January 1 and it's still winter, and they say, whoever they is, that we're really supposed to be wintering until like March. March is technically kind of the new year. That's the change of season into spring. And like I said, it's really hard for normal society to follow this kind of natural pattern that we have. But then you have us travelers, us nomads who are constantly chasing the sun. That's literally what we live for. And we never even give ourselves the chance. And I don't know about like your kind of like groups that your friend groups and things, but I know kind of in my circle of travel friends, I'm surrounded really by so many people who are entrepreneurs or events that are all based on entrepreneurship. So there's still so much of that hustle culture on top of it. And I'm, have so many friends who maybe they're not super entrepreneurial right now, but they're hustling to figure out what it is that they want to do. Like they're still hustling in some sort of way. So there's no slowdown. There's no like getting away from this, right? So that makes it even harder. But we've said this before, burnout with long-term travelers is real. You have the constant travel stress, then this hustle, and apparently now we're not even giving ourselves that break of winter season and we're not hibernating at all. So throw that on top. Never thought of that. I will say this year, I did come back home, which was very intentional. But I was also very intentional about going into kind of this hibernation for January and February, even though I didn't call it that. But I was kind of trying to intentionally go on that concept of spring does not start until March. Just stop. I made it a point that I wasn't going to make any major decisions. I wasn't going to overthink and ruminate on things until March. Specifically, I said that my new year was not starting until I got home from retreat. One, because I knew all my plans and ideas were probably going to change after going on an experience like that and getting new insights and things. But yeah, it was amazing. And I think there's a good tip in there for listeners of intentionally creating your seasons, even if you're still in the sunshine all the time. And maybe a way that you can do that is kind of create these different significant markers, these significant points throughout the year that fit with what we should be focusing on or doing during that time based on the season. So if you're in winter, obviously that's hibernating, slowing down, not thinking, getting rest. Summer is more go, go, go. I don't know what the heck the other ones are meant for, but intentionally kind of setting your year up based on that, I think is so important. And I'm really glad that you brought this up.
Yeah, I'm glad that resonated with you and that you have tried that in your own life, even if you didn't realize that you were doing that. Because again, this doesn't have to do with the actual weather. I know that some places are hot year round, but in general, I think humans kind of have this cyclical life. And so to kind of have that season of reflecting and going inward and slowing down is really important. And it maybe doesn't matter which time of the year it is, but like you said, kind of picking some anchor points in your year to have different energy levels and priorities of what you're focusing on. And then having seasons where you do pick up the intensity and you set all the goals and you are doing more of the things because you've had that period of rest. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of identify with those patterns as well.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
Truth is ours.
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Hi, Diva. It's Rachel.
And Jordan, yeah, hi. Quick question.
Why are you not spending your Venmo balance?
Yeah, we're concerned.
You can, buy stuff with it.
Ugh, you love buying stuff.
And earn cash back on eligible purchases.
You love purchasing eligible things.
So the money your friend sent you yesterday, that's today's ramen or rideshare or eye patches.
The skincare kind, not the pyro kind.
Spend with Venmo, then you can earn cash back with Venmo Stash. Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. ID verification required to use a Venmo balance.
Now, back to the show.
Well, talking about nomads and this hustle culture. So we decided to ask some people for their craziest workarounds for getting around remote work policies. And not like changing your Zoom background or using a VPN. We're talking like fully unhinged, commitment level hacks to make nomad life work. So, Janessa, do you want to go first? I know you collected the majority of these.
All right. So this one kind of stood out to me. A friend was working for a large global company that insisted on return to office 3 days per week, which obviously is a problem if you don't have a home. And the loophole that she found was that it could be any office. So this person just makes sure that for 3 days out of the week, they're in a city that has an office in close enough proximity to where they're staying. And they will go scan in with their badge, and then either they can leave immediately or go home, or they can use the space for the day, stock up on some free snacks, and then the rest of the time they could be anywhere in the world. So they just had to pick their destinations on where there was an office, not necessarily their home office. So I wonder if this company noticed people were doing that and would close that loophole, but that sounded pretty smart to me.
So this is, I'm assuming then, okay, you said it was like a global company. So like a big company that has like official offices throughout the world.
Yes, they have offices throughout the year.
Okay. I love that. Okay.
Yes. I won't say which company, but you've definitely heard of it.
I think we all use it. You know, a common one that I see is people kind of living nocturnally, especially if you're in countries like Asia and you're working from the States or something like that, and taking meetings in the middle of the night. So I never had to do this, thankfully, but a really good friend that I was staying with in Thailand, oh man, Janessa, oh man, she would be taking random calls. We would be out 11, 12 o'clock at night, hanging out with friends, getting a drink, whatever. She'd get a text message asking if she can talk. Of course, she had to say yes. And I think in this case they did know where she was located, but I think it just didn't register to them, like this time difference. So she'd have to run out of the bar or wherever we were, take this phone call. And then we would, by the time we would leave, and sometimes that's, 1 or 2 a.m., whatever. We would get back and she would be, after quite a few drinks, I might add, she would be working until 5 a.m. And I was like, I don't know how you are doing this, but kudos to her. Like, she did an amazing job with all of her work from what I could tell, but man, like that's some commitment to some work. It's really like never ending when you have to kind of commit to that nocturnal schedule. So good for her.
Yes, I could not do that. That's one of the perks of freelance life, is that I can be anywhere and I can say no to meetings in the middle of the night. I don't know how people do it. Anyways, another one that I heard of recently was a friend's company insisted that they had to start using an upgraded laptop by the end of the month. But they were already on the other side of the world with no plans to return anytime soon. And so this laptop was shipped to their parents' address, which I think they told the company was their address, as we all do. Then it was picked up by a friend. And then this employee paid for the friend's flight to come and visit them to hand deliver the laptop rather than having to fly home and collect the laptop because they still saved money that way and their friend got to visit. So really committing to it.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't even a friend that was already planning on coming out that way or something?
No, it was a friend that thought about visiting, but they said, I'll buy your flight if you bring my computer and save me a trip home. So that was a little hack. What else? I recently was in a very warm place and someone was wearing full summer clothing, a tank top, and they're like, hey, I got to go take a meeting. And they put on a giant sweater and they were just sweating on this Zoom call because their whole team thought that they were still at home in the cold weather. So that was a little silly. And then honorable mention to people that have the temperature displayed for a different city on their computers so that when they have to share their screen, they don't get caught by it saying that it's actually super hot when they're supposed to be somewhere cold.
I never thought of doing that. I don't think, you know what? I am looking at my screen right now and it does say 1 inch of rain on Wednesday. It doesn't say my location though, but maybe max and stuff. But it's funny, a lot of these things, I think we sometimes hear them as like stories, but they're kind of like they are a little made up. But then you start meeting these real people who it's like, no, they actually do have to do these completely ridiculous things to get away with working remotely. So it really shows how far, people will go when their policies or whatever don't really match how their employees, how everyone wants to live and work. Obviously we're not necessarily encouraging anyone to break their company's policies, but it's all about creativity. And we know that there's probably some way crazier ones out there. So if you, my listeners, have pulled off anything else that is truly unhinged, we kind of want to hear it. So feel free to shoot us a message on Instagram at Zero to Travel or send us an email. And some final thoughts. We are each going to share our number one biggest takeaway from today's conversation in just a moment. But one last reminder to sign up for our free newsletter where you'll get more helpful resources like you heard today over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, like I just said, let us know your thoughts about this episode or share any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about. Go ahead and email us at Caitlin@zerototravel.com or our IG again is at zerototravel. All right. So, Janessa, do you know what your biggest takeaway is?
So my biggest takeaway is just the power of community, including here with the Zero to Travel listener community and all of you here listening, as well as the larger travel and nomad community and the people we meet along the way, and just how one simple conversation can change everything, can set you on a path that you didn't expect, and that it's important to stay open to new opportunities and experiences that might come about this way. Because that was just really cool that it sent me to Egypt to go do a scuba diving co-living just because of one little comment. And, we see so many examples of this, and we've both met some really amazing people around the world. How about you, Caitlin?
Well, all right. I want to give a quick honorable mention to the idea that you said, which was, are you uncomfortable or are you unsafe? I think that's a really important thing to remember, especially when you're experiencing new things and maybe traveling to countries that are a little more foreign to what you're used to. But my biggest takeaway, I think, is talking about the wintering season and creating these seasons for yourself that are really intentional. And I would love to challenge our listeners to see how maybe you could do that in your life. How can you kind of look at your seasons, or look at the season that you're currently in, and intentionally adjust your life based on that? And maybe it's not exactly based on seasons like spring, summer, winter, fall, the weather seasons. Maybe it's based on every quarter, so we can take this a little less woo-woo maybe for some people or whatever, and it's more so, how can you look at where you're at, what you want to accomplish every quarter, every quote unquote season, and just focusing on that, and like just making one focus or one way of living or doing things or whatever for that amount of time, but always adding in that period of rest, I think is so just not talked about enough. It is so underrated. So I would just love to challenge everyone to just think about that more and see how you can maybe kind of adjust your way of living, kind of adjust to that based on the seasons. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I love that you kind of brought that angle to it as well, that it's not just about the seasons. All right. So as usual, a quote before you go. And I know the world feels crazy these days sometimes, and there's so much going on. So this one, I think, just really brings it back to the good of the world and the people. So it is "Kind words do not cost much, yet they accomplish much" by Blaise Pascal. So I think that is a great place to wrap it off. I've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have too.
All right. See you guys later.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.